My name is Eliza Hart, though in my family Liz always sounded more like a misprint than a person. I grew up in a house where the floors whispered and the walls did the talking. My father, Thomas Hart, preferred numbers over people, balance sheets over birthdays, market forecasts over family dinners. My mother measured love in obligations: show up, be quiet, be useful. And my older brother, Nathan, glowed like a permanent sunrise over all of it. A golden child who made mistakes that were called risks, and spent money that was called investments. I learned early to be the quiet room between their storms. The day before the will reading, the house still smelled like antiseptic and roses, lingering relics from the wake. I had flown home from a city 3 hours away, where I rent a sliver of an apartment and stitch together 2 part-time jobs into something that looks like stability. The Hart house, by contrast, sits back from the road like it's sulking, half hidden behind black iron gates and a row of carefully tortured topiaries. Money has a way of contorting living things. I found Nathan in our father's study, legs kicked up on the leather ottoman, swirling a glass of something expensive and amber. He wore a navy suit without a tie, the top button undone, as if grief had its own dress code for men like him. The Hart crest, an old-fashioned H crowned with a wreath, glimmered on his cufflinks. "You're late," he said, without looking up. "For what?" "Dad's funeral was yesterday." He finally glanced at me, eyes quick and assessing. "For everything. The board meets Friday. There's a transition to manage. The lawyer reading the will tomorrow is just ceremony." "Ceremony," I repeated, stepping into the room my father had always kept cool enough to refrigerate milk. The books were arranged by height, not topic. The desk was immaculate, save for the bowl where he used to toss his keys, a habit that irked him even as he did it. "It's still Dad's life, in writing." Nathan smirked. "It's a company, Liz. Dad knew how to separate feelings from facts. You should try it." What I wanted to say was that I'd been separating my feelings from facts since I was old enough to realize that gold-plated picture frames didn't make us a family. What I said instead was, "I'll see you tomorrow." He watched me reach for the doorknob. "Don't be difficult with Mr. Sterling," he added. "He's been through this with plenty of families. He knows how to keep things clean." Clean. I thought of scoured accounts, swept corners, the silent pile of our father's secrets that money had always been good at laundering. Right. Upstairs, my old room had been turned into a guest suite with the personality of a high-end waiting room. The turquoise wallpaper, with gulls I'd begged for at 13, had been replaced with a tasteful beige. The bookshelf was gone. The window seat cushions were a more mature cream that punished any attempt at comfort. There was a scented candle labeled hearth, which smelled faintly of pine, and a memory I couldn't place. I stood at the window and looked past the lawn to the narrow black ribbon of the river, the one place my father's voice softened when he'd talk about it, how he'd fished there with his father, how the ice was thin, but tempting in winter, how the sun spattered coins of light across the surface in late summer. He had given me a list of rules for that river. Nathan, I remember, had been given a boat. My phone buzzed with a message from Mom, breakfast at 8. "Don't argue. Wear something appropriate." I typed back, "Okay," and caught my reflection in the glass. A woman in a borrowed black dress, hair pinned too tightly, eyes that looked like they were practicing being dry. I pressed my forehead against the cool pane, breathing fog onto it until a blurred circle appeared, a private eclipse. After a while, I sat on the unfamiliar edge of the unfamiliar bed and opened the old showbox I'd slid from the back of the closet when nobody was looking. The lid creaked. Inside, a little ecosystem of paper survived, postcards from college friends I'd lost the thread of, the Polaroid of me in my scratchy choir dress, a river stone streaked with quartz my father had given me the day I learned to swim. On top, a letter I'd never mailed addressed to myself, age 22, warning me not to become the kind of woman who mistakes earning her place for deserving it. Dinner that night was taut and quiet. Mother pushed food around her plate, as if grief could be heavy and still weightless. Nathan checked his watch twice. We toasted nothing. At the end of the hall, after the dishes were stacked and the lights dimmed, I passed Father's study again. The door was ajar. On the desk sat a single legal envelope with my father's name embossed at the top and a smaller type beneath it, Sterling and Associates. I did not step into the room. I only stood there, breathing in the smell of paper and ambition, and wondered whether tomorrow would split us open or sew us shut. I fell asleep waiting for an answer I already feared. Morning broke with a kind of ceremonial stiffness, like even the sunlight knew it wasn't supposed to be casual today. Mother had arranged breakfast exactly the way Father used to prefer, eggs just shy of overcooked, toast stacked in military precision, coffee strong enough to bite the tongue. She barely touched any of it. Nathan arrived 15 minutes late, smelling of cologne that cost more than my monthly rent, carrying himself like a man stepping onto a stage. The drive to Sterling and Associates took 20 minutes, the silence between us stretched like taut wire. The firm's office loomed on the corner of Main Street, glass walls, brushed steel, the kind of architecture that wants to remind you it knows your secrets already. Inside, the receptionist spoke softly, like we were all patients waiting for surgery. She guided us to a long conference room with mahogany walls and chairs that swallowed you whole. On the table sat a pitcher of water, a box of tissues, and the weight of everything my father had left behind. Mr. Sterling entered with the precision of a man who'd been orchestrating family storms for decades. He was tall, white-haired, glasses perched low on his nose. He carried a leather folder with a gravity that made my stomach clench. Mrs. Hart. Nathan. Eliza, he greeted, nodding to each of us in turn. His voice had that practice calm, the kind that soothed no one, but convinced everyone to sit still. Thank you for being here. I know this is difficult, but I hope today brings clarity. Nathan leaned back in his chair, folding his hands like he already knew the script. Mother dabbed the corner of her eye with a handkerchief that looked more like a prop than a necessity. I folded my hands in my lap, nails pressing half-moons into my palms. Mr. Sterling opened the folder. The rustle of paper was sharper than it should have been. As you know, your father left behind a considerable estate, he began. The will reflects both his business acumen and his personal wishes. I will read it in its entirety. I exhaled slowly. My heart beat loud enough that I wondered if anyone else could hear. He read the formalities: first debts to be settled, funeral expenses accounted for, charitable donations to a foundation my father had once praised at dinner and never mentioned again. Then came the personal bequests. To my son, Nathaniel Hart, Mr. Sterling read, I leave 1 million shares of Hart Enterprises, with all privileges and responsibilities therein. Nathan's lips curved, smug and inevitable. Mother gave a small, approving nod. My throat tightened. I stared at my folded hands. And to my daughter, Eliza Hart, Mr. Sterling paused, scanning the page. My breath snagged. I leave nothing. The words detonated in my chest. Nothing. Just air and silence where something's hold have been. Nathan glanced at me, not with sympathy but with triumph. Mother's eyes flickered, as though she'd been expecting this all along. I felt heat rise in my face, the kind that burns from humiliation more than anger. My father had erased me in ink, and the law would clap politely. But then Mr. Sterling's mouth twitched. Not a slip, not pity. A smile. Small, deliberate. I straightened in my chair. Something was hidden in those pages, tucked between lines or locked in the cadence of his voice. My father had left me nothing, had he? The room held its breath, waiting for me to break. I did not. Instead, I fixed my eyes on the lawyer's smile and whispered, "Read on." The silence after my words stretched long enough for the air conditioner's hum to become unbearable. Mr. Sterling cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses, and shuffled the papers again. He was performing, I realized, stalling, setting a stage. My father had loved theater in business, the way tension could be used as currency. Nathan broke first. "Well, that's that, isn't it? 1,000,000 shares. Clean and simple." He leaned back, exhaling like a man who had just won a game rigged in his favor. "Not quite, Mr. Sterling replied calmly. His eyes flicked to me for half a second, then back to the page. "Your father's will is laird." Mother frowned. "Laird?" Thomas was always precise. He didn't like games. I almost laughed at that. My father lived on games, financial, emotional, intellectual. He thrived on making people play by rules only he understood. Mr. Sterling continued. "The will contains stipulations. Certain assets are withheld until conditions are met. Others are outlined in documents not to be read in this session." Nathan scoffed. "That's ridiculous. The shares are mine, clean transfer. Nothing hidden there." Sterling's smile barely shifted. "The shares, yes. But assets are not limited to shares, Mr. Hart. Your father was a man of foresight." I leaned forward. "Then what does that mean for me?" Sterling closed the folder with a quiet snap. "It means this is not the end of the matter." He lowered his voice, though we were the only ones in the room. "Your father left you nothing in this will. But he also left instructions." Nathan bristled. "Instructions? To her?" The lawyer ignored him. "Miss Hart, you are to meet me tomorrow morning. Alone. Your father specified that detail quite clearly. It seems he left something off the record." A current of shock rippled through me. Mother shifted uncomfortably. Nathan sat forward, fury sparking in his eyes. "This is absurd. Why should she?" Sterling raised a hand, authoritative. "Because your father said so. And I am bound by his word." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. His silence felt dangerous, like the kind that simmers before it explodes. Mother finally spoke. "Thomas always had his reasons. If he left Eliza instructions, then we must respect them." Her tone was detached, as if she was discussing dinner reservations. Sterling gathered his papers. "That concludes today's reading. I'll see you tomorrow, Miss Hart. Same building, 9 sharp." He stood, gave a polite nod, and left us in that suffocating room. The second the door clicked shut, Nathan turned on me. "Don't get any ideas. Dad made his choice. 1,000,000 shares to me, nothing to you. Whatever Sterling is dangling its scraps." "Funny," I said quietly, though my voice trembled, "you seem scared of scraps." His eyes narrowed. "You don't belong in this. You never did. Dad knew that. Or maybe he knew something you don't," I shot back. The tension in the room was a knife pressed against both our throats. Mother stood, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress. "Enough," she said. "We are a family. Don't embarrass yourselves." But I was already leaving, my pulse thundering in my ears. For once, I felt something sharp inside meant humiliation, not resignation, but a spark. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window of the guest room, staring at the river, clutching the stone from my showbox like it was a talisman. What had my father hidden for me? Why the secrecy? I replayed every childhood moment, his brief smile when I showed him a drawing, the way he'd tell me rules for the river, how he'd once said, "Eliza, not everything you inherit is written down." At the time I thought he meant character. Now I wasn't so sure. At 3 a.m., I whispered into the empty room, "What did you leave me, Dad?" And though the house stayed silent, I felt certain the answer was already in motion. The next morning, I dressed in my plainest clothes. A charcoal grey sweater, black slacks, flats I'd owned since college. No pearls, no polished surfaces to rival Nathan's gleam. If father had left something for me, it wasn't going to be about appearances. The drive to Sterling and Associates was foggy, the streets muted. I arrived at 8:55 sharp. The receptionist recognized me instantly and ushered me down a narrow hallway instead of the grand conference room. This door was smaller, unmarked, with no glossy wood paneling to advertise its importance. Inside was a study-like chamber, more library than boardroom. Books lined the walls, and a single desk sat beneath a lamp. Mr. Sterling was already there, standing by the window, his leather folder in hand. "Miss Hart," he greeted warmly. "Thank you for being punctual. Your father insisted you would be. Can we skip the ceremony?" I asked. "What did he leave me?" Sterling's smile deepened. "A choice." He opened the folder and withdrew a thick-sealed envelope. My name was written across the front in my father's hand, sharp, slanted letters I hadn't seen since he signed my last birthday card. My throat tightened. I reached for it, but Sterling held it back. "Before you open this, you must understand, what's inside will alter everything. Your brother's inheritance, your mother's standing, the company's future, even your own identity." I frowned. Identity? What does that mean? "Read," he urged softly, placing the envelope on the desk. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were several documents, a letter, a deed, and what looked like an old family trust agreement. I unfolded the letter first. "Eliza," it began. "If you're reading this, then I am gone, and the noise of inheritance has already begun. Nathan will expect the world, and I have given him enough rope to hang himself. To you, I give something else entirely. 30 years ago, when I was building Hart Enterprises, I made decisions that required secrecy. Assets were moved, properties hidden in trusts under names no one remembers. One of those assets is the Riverside Estate, 30 acres along the river you love. That land and the holdings tied to Atare, yours alone. Your name is on the deed, hidden until now." I froze. Riverside Estate. I remembered rumors, whispers at family dinners about a lost property father had once sold. But he hadn't sold it at all. I kept reading. "Along with the land, you inherit my silent shares, 20% of Hart Enterprises kept outside the public books. You will not find them in the official will, because secrecy was survival. But the documentation is enclosed. These are yours to claim when you are ready. Do not reveal them hastily. Let Nathan believe he has won. Let him reveal his character. And when the time is right, you will hold the true power." The letter ended with words that felt foreign in his voice. "I underestimated you too often, Eliza. This is my attempt to make amends. Use it wisely." My hands shook as I set the letter down. 20%. Enough to sway any board decision. Enough to dethrone Nathan. Sterling cleared his throat gently. "You see, Miss Hart. Your father's gift was not absence. It was patience. He wanted you overlooked until the right moment." I pressed my palms against the desk, trying to steady myself. Does Nathan know? Sterling shook his head. No. And he must not. Not yet. If he learns, he will do everything in his power to strip it from you. He has allies, but also enemies. Time will expose both. I sank into the chair, dizzy. Why me? He never treated me like I mattered. Perhaps he knew you were the only one who wouldn't waste it. The words cut deep, because a part of me wanted to believe them. Before I could answer, the door slammed open. Nathan stormed in, eyes blazing. What the hell is this? Sterling didn't flinch. Mr. Hart, this is a private meeting. You were not summoned. I don't care. Nathan's gaze snapped to me, then to the papers on the desk. What's in the envelope? What are you hiding? Instinct took over. I slid the documents back into the envelope and clutched it to my chest. Nothing that concerns you. His face twisted. You're lying. He lunged toward me, but Sterling stepped between us with surprising force for a man his age. Mr. Hart, Sterling said firmly, if you cannot compose yourself, I will be forced to remove you. Nathan glared at him, then at me. This isn't over, Liz. Whatever scraps Dad left you, they won't matter when I'm in charge. You'll regret crossing me. He stormed out, the echo of his footsteps vibrating through the floor. I clutched the envelope tighter. My father had left me more than I ever imagined, but he had also handed me a war. Sterling's voice broke the silence. Be careful, Miss Hart. Power attracts enemies faster than friends. I nodded, my chest heavy. I'm starting to see that. That night, I didn't sleep again. I walked the riverbank instead, the letter folded in my coat pocket, whispering against my ribs like a heartbeat. The moonlight made the water silver. Somewhere across the lawn, Nathan's window glowed. I whispered to the river, you gave him shares. You gave me secrets. Let's see which one destroys us first. The days following the secret meeting felt like living inside a storm that hadn't broken yet. Nathan strutted around the Hart house like a king crowned too early, barking orders to the household staff, taking calls from board members with his door open just so we could all hear him say words like expansion, control, and legacy. Mother hovered between us, feigning neutrality. But her eyes lingered on Nathan, proud, approving. When she looked at me, it was with the same expression she reserved for spilled wine, annoyance at the inconvenience. I stayed quiet, envelope hidden in my suitcase beneath layers of clothes. Every night, I reread Father's letter until the ink imprinted itself on my mind. Let Nathan believe he has won. Let him reveal his character. He revealed it quickly. At breakfast one morning, Nathan leaned back in his chair, sipping coffee like it was champagne. Board meetings tomorrow. They'll officially transfer Father's shares into my name. We'll vote on restructuring immediately. I'll be chairman by next week. Mother smiled faintly. Your father would be proud. And you? Nathan asked, eyes flicking to me. Still clinging to whatever pity Sterling handed you. I stabbed at my toast, refusing to meet his gaze. You sound awfully insecure for a man with 1 million shares. His laugh was sharp. Oh, Liz. Still biting at scraps. You'll always be the afterthought. I swallowed my anger, forcing calm into my voice. Funny thing about afterthoughts. They are the ones people don't see coming. The table went still. Mother's hand froze halfway to her teacup. Nathan's eyes narrowed, but he didn't reply. That silence was victory enough for me. The next day, I slipped into Sterling's office before the board meeting. He was waiting, as if he knew I'd come. You've read the documents thoroughly, he asked. Yes. My voice wavered. But how do I use them without burning everything down? Sterling steepled his fingers. Timing, Miss Hart. The 20% silent shares are powerful, but their strength lies in surprise. If Nathan believes himself secure, his arrogance will expose weaknesses. You will strike when the company and the board needs you most. Strike? I echoed. The word tasted foreign. Your father didn't choose you for timidity. His gaze softened. You may not believe it yet, but he trusted you more than anyone. I thought of the river, of father's rare, gentle voice when he spoke of it. Perhaps he had trusted me in ways I hadn't recognized. Sterling slid a second envelope across the desk. This contains legal confirmation of your ownership. Do not open it until the moment demands it. I took it with trembling hands. Another secret, another weight. At the board meeting, Nathan played his role perfectly, confident, commanding, smug. He wore a navy suit with a crimson tie, his father's watch gleaming on his wrist. Gentlemen, ladies, he began, voice booming, today marks the continuation of Hart Enterprises' greatness. My father built this empire, and I will ensure it expands beyond even his vision. The board applauded politely. Some looked eager, others looked wary. I sat in the back, officially present only as family. Through the meeting, Nathan outlined aggressive strategies, rapid acquisitions, risky overseas investments, downsizing departments to cut waste. His words were polished, but beneath them was recklessness. I noticed the older board members exchanging uneasy glances. They remembered father's caution. They respected growth, but not gambling. When the vote came to transfer father's official shares, it passed unanimously. Nathan beamed like a conqueror. Any other business? Sterling asked from his quiet seat at the table. Nathan shook his head. None. We're done here. I felt the envelope in my purse like a live coal. Not yet, I reminded myself. Father's words echoed, let him reveal his character. That evening, the confrontation erupted. Nathan cornered me in the hallway, his face twisted in fury. What did Sterling give you? What are you hiding? I kept my voice steady. Nothing you need to worry about. Don't play coy. He slammed his hand against the wall beside me. I know Dad left you something. I saw your face. I stepped closer, forcing him to back up. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Either way, it's mine. And there's nothing you can do about it. His jaw clenched, eyes burning. I'll find out. And when I do, I'll crush you. Or maybe, I whispered, leaning in, you'll crush yourself first. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. Just a spark, but enough. The days turned into weeks, tension tightening like a rope. Nathan grew bolder, making riskier decisions, throwing money at ventures that glittered on paper, but bled in reality. Rumors spread, suppliers unpaid, projects collapsing, investors uneasy. I watched silently, waiting. Each failure was another crack in his armor. One night, Sterling called me. It's close, he said. The board is restless. They are losing faith in Nathan. The next meeting may be the time. My heart pounded. The envelope lay on my nightstand, Father's words echoing louder than ever. I knew the moment was coming. The question was, when I revealed the truth, would it save the company or destroy my family forever? The next board meeting was chaos before it even began. Nathan stormed into the conference room, already on the phone, barking orders at some poor assistant. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot. Success had made him louder, failure had made him desperate. I slipped quietly into my chair at the far end. Sterling gave me a subtle nod, his eyes calm but alert. The second envelope, the one confirming my hidden inheritance, felt like it weighed 100 pounds inside my purse. Nathan slammed his phone shut and faced the board with a forced grin. "Gentlemen, ladies," another bold step forward. "We'll secure a merger with Ultratech within the month. Yes, the numbers look steep, but the payoff will be exponential." One board member, a wiry man named Caldwell, frowned. "Ultratech just filed for restructuring. Their debt is astronomical. This merger could sink us." Nathan waved dismissively. "Short-term noise. Long-term gain." Another member, Ms. Pierce, spoke up. "We've already lost 30 million on your last expansion. Investors are restless. If we keep gambling, Hart Enterprises won't survive." Nathan's smile faltered. "Are you questioning my leadership?" "Yes," she said flatly. The room buzzed. Nathan's face flushed crimson. He banged his fist on the table. "I am the majority shareholder. I decide the direction of this company." That was the moment. Sterling leaned forward, voice calm but cutting. "Not quite, Mr. Hart." Nathan froze. "What are you talking about?" Sterling's gaze slid to me. My heart pounded, but I stood. My hands trembled as I drew the envelope from my purse. "Father didn't leave me nothing," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "He left me this." I laid the documents on the table. Silence fell like a hammer. Nathan lunged forward, snatching at the papers, but Sterling blocked him with a firm hand. He slid the documents to Caldwell, who scanned them quickly, his eyes widening. "These are legitimate," Caldwell whispered. "Silent shares. 20%. Gasps circled the table. Ms. Pierce looked at me with something like relief. "That gives her the deciding vote." Nathan's face went slack, then twisted into rage. "This is a lie. Dad would never." I cut him off, my voice sharper than I'd ever used with him. "Father trusted me in ways you never saw. While you were busy chasing approval, he was planning for stability. He knew you'd gamble the company away. And he was right." The board erupted into whispers. Sterling raised a hand. "Order." Caldwell cleared his throat. "With 20% silent shares, plus support from the minority shareholders, Ms. Hart holds the balance of power. Effective immediately, I move to review the chairmanship." Nathan's jaw dropped. "You can't do this." "But Ms. Pierce's voice was calm, almost cold. "We can. And we will." Votes were called. One by one, hands rose against Nathan. His face grew paler with every tally. By the end, the decision was clear: Nathan removed, pending investigation into financial mismanagement. I had won. But as the gavel of consensus fell, I didn't feel triumph. I felt the weight of everything: my father's faith, my brother's hatred, the company's future pressing against my chest like a stone. Nathan turned to me, eyes blazing with betrayal. "You think this is over? You stole this from me." I met his gaze. "No. Father gave it to me. You destroyed yourself." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. The board members began murmuring about next steps, legal filings, press statements. But I sat in silence, the river stone in my pocket grounding me. I had power now. Real power. But it came with blood in the water. Sterling leaned close, voice quiet. "It begins now, Miss Hart. Use it wisely or it will consume you." I nodded, though inside I wondered, had father truly trusted me, or had he simply set me up for a war I could never escape? News traveled faster than I expected. By the next morning, every business paper in the city carried some version of the headline, "Board removes Nathan Hart amid crisis." My name appeared in smaller print, but it was there: Eliza Hart takes unexpected role in family empire. Mother was livid. She cornered me in the kitchen, her silk robe swishing like angry wings. "How dare you humiliate your brother like this? Your father's company was meant for Nathan." "No, Mother," I said quietly, though my voice trembled. "It was meant to survive. And Nathan was killing it." She slapped the counter, china rattling in the cupboard. "You've always been jealous. Always waiting to steal what isn't yours." I wanted to shout back, to remind her of the years I'd been invisible, the birthdays she'd forgotten, the sacrifices no one had noticed. But I swallowed the words. She wouldn't hear them. She never had. Instead, I said, "Father chose this. Not me." Her face crumpled, not with sadness, but with disdain. She turned and swept out of the room without another word. Nathan, on the other hand, didn't go quiet. That evening, he called me. His voice was raw, slurred with drink. "Enjoy the throne, Liz. You think you're clever? You've only painted a target on your back. Those board members you're so proud of, they'll eat you alive. And when they do, don't expect me to save you." "I never expected you to," I said, and hung up. But his words burrowed under my skin. Because he wasn't entirely wrong. The board had sided with me out of necessity, not loyalty. If I faltered, they'd discard me just as quickly as they'd discarded him. Sterling arranged for me to meet with key investors over the next week. I dressed in borrowed confidence, carrying Father's letter in my purse like a shield. One investor, a sharp-eyed woman named Grant, studied me across her desk. "You're young. Unproven. Why should we trust you more than your brother?" I met her gaze, steadying my breath. "Because I know what I don't know." Nathan gambled with arrogance. "I'll lead with caution. I won't promise you empires. I'll promise you survival." She smiled faintly, almost approving. "That, Miss Hart, may be exactly what this company needs." At night, though, when the meetings ended and the house grew quiet, doubt consumed me. I would sit by the river with the deed in my lap, tracing the edges with my fingers. Riverside Estate was mine now. 30 acres of untouched land, waiting. It was beautiful and terrifying. Sometimes I wondered if Father had known I would feel trapped. That giving me power wasn't freedom, but chains. One night, as the moonlight rippled across the water, I whispered, "What am I supposed to do with all this?" Of course, the river didn't answer. But in my chest, something shifted, a sense that the story wasn't ending here. It was only changing shape. Because Nathan wasn't gone. Mother wasn't done. And the empire my father had built was bigger than both of us. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of this family legacy, I could feel another secret waiting to surface. Weeks turned into months, and Hart Enterprises slowly steadied beneath my reluctant hands. The reckless deals Nathan had started were either dismantled or salvaged. Investors who had once eyed me with suspicion now listened when I spoke. The newspapers stopped calling me the overlooked daughter, and started calling me the unlikely heir. But the victory was hollow. Mother barely spoke to me, her silence louder than her anger. When she passed me in the halls, her eyes slid away, as though I were a stranger renting space in her home. I stopped trying to win her approval. It had been a losing game since childhood. Nathan, meanwhile, retreated into the shadows. Rumors swirled, he'd left the country, he was plotting a new venture, he was planning revenge. Every time the phone rang late at night, my heart clenched, expecting his voice full of venom. But weeks passed, then months, and still he stayed silent. Silence, I realized, was more dangerous than rage. Riverside Estate became my refuge. I spent long weekends there, walking the land, listening to the hush of the trees, the murmur of the river. For the first time, I could breathe. And yet, even in that quiet, I felt my father's presence stern, watchful, pressing me toward choices I hadn't asked to make. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, I sat on the porch of the old caretaker's house, letter in hand. I read the last lines again, use it wisely. I whispered into the dusk, did you trust me, Father? Or did you just run out of options? The river answered only with its eternal rush, carrying secrets downstream. I realized then that my inheritance was not just land or shares or power. It was the weight of a legacy built on ambition, lies, and silence. A legacy I could either continue or unravel. I folded the letter carefully, slid it back into its envelope, and pressed it against my heart. The war with Nathan wasn't truly over. My mother's coldness wasn't fading. The company's survival was still fragile. But for the first time in my life, I was not invisible. I was the one holding the pieces. And whatever came next, betrayal, reconciliation, destruction, I would meet it on my own terms. I stood, facing the river. The wind caught my hair, and for a brief moment, I thought I could hear my father's voice, softer than I'd ever known it. Not everything you inherit is written down. Maybe he was right. Maybe what I truly inherited wasn't an empire. It was the strength to fight for myself. And this was only the beginning.